Hello YouTube, this is Sonic3KK, and I just want to say something. This tutorial might span maybe 2 tutorials. I am to be perfectly honest, I am not sure if this is going to be a 1 episode tutorial. But yeah, basically in this tutorial for Python, we are going to be looking at what was I just going to do? Calculator, and that's why it might span a few tutorials, because there's a few things I also want to talk about. Now, one thing I want to say is that we know from Lua, we know the basic math operators, maybe from general programming you know them, so our old math operators, plus, minus, multiply, and divide. Yeah, now these are okay, you can just use these, but there are some new ones I want to teach. And that is the Modulus. And we'll get on to what these all do in a second. So the Modulus, par, and square root. Now these aren't technically operators. If you know anything about Python, you should know that these are functions. And what these do is, these functions, you put something into them and they give you an output, as a function would. But I'm going to explain them. So, what Modulus does. Now, with Modulus, it might seem a little confusing, but I think they teach it in school somewhere. I'm not 100% sure. We haven't did it in school, but I'm only a second year. Going into third year, but we might do it in third year. Maybe you do it in 6th year or whatever. I don't know how that transfers into grades in America. But, yeah. What was it? Oh yes, Modulus. Now, Modulus, what it does is it will take 2 numbers and give you the remainder. So, if we did print 10, modulus 10, modulus is a percent sign, we should get 0 back. Yep, 0, because why is this? Modulus, it divides these 2 numbers and returns the remainder. So, if we did 10 divided by 10, 10 goes into 10 evenly, 1 time, with 0 left over. And, it's kind of confusing. You might not know when to use it. I have never used it in my programming life, but you might use it later on, if depending on the program that you're making. I focus on game development, and I have never used it in game development, but I have never got in depth in game development. I have never made an amazing game. Mr. Roll Guy is the height of the game that I've made. Yeah. So print at 10 modulus 10 is string 10 modulus 10. 10 modulus 10 is 0. Maybe we could change that to a, we could put brackets around this and say that percent sign, just so we know what pi does. Print. Now, hold on, I should explain what pi does before I get into this. But pi is, it gets the power of numbers. In the function you have 2 parameters, and the first parameter is your base number, and the other one is your other number. Now, if you haven't did power in school, you should have done square numbers. If you're watching this tutorial, I'm going to assume you know what square numbers and cube numbers are. So, you know the way you have the square numbers and you have the little 2 above it, or if you do centimeters squared or something, well, actually, no, forget that, I was just being a retard. The little 2, if you're doing square numbers, little 2 above that number, and to say that the number's squared, well, that's what power does, except the wee number above it, or the little number above it, changes to 10 here. I will give a visual representation of it. I will open up GIMP, because I am just a nice guy and I want to explain this to you and make it easy, and I'm on Mac and the closest thing I have to the paint program is GIMP. But Mac rules, because don't use Windows. One thing I've learned, don't use Windows. Windows is terrible. Never use Windows. It is so insecure. You should either use Mac or Linux. And if you want to be a programmer, I assume you know what Linux is at the very least. Hopefully you're already on or a Linux distro of some sort. Maybe even a Raspberry Pi. If you're on a Raspberry Pi, I'm going to give you a high five. If you're not on a Raspberry Pi, oh well. If you're on Windows, I'm not even going to comment. If you're on Mac, good. If you're on Linux, even better. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to make a new file and get on with this. So, you know that little number? So say we wanted to do 10 to the 10th power, and this is the little thing above it that was terrible. 10, 10. Now this basically means this is your base number. That's the base number. Base. This is the base number, and this is the that sucks, but it's index. This is index, and this is base. That just kind of sucked, that visual representation. Basically, this is the base number, and this is the index number, and the index number is the one that you want to put the power to. You multiply it by the power of. Now, 10 is your base number, and 10 is your index number. I keep saying that, but what does that mean? Well, this means your base number gets multiplied by your index number, depending on the size of the index number. Now, in this example, this would be 10. You multiply 10 by 10 times. So if we change this to 11, it would be 10 multiplied by 11 times. And that's what the power of a number is, and you get some really large numbers doing that. And I actually have used this. I have used this a few times, but again, it's not that common that you would want to get the power of two numbers, but you might want to, or it's kind of a good way of getting a random number sometimes. But I think Python has a random module built in that I will probably cover when I get on to game development with Python. But for now, hopefully this makes sense. So base number gets multiplied by the index number by the value of the index number. So if this was 200 and this was 100, you multiply 100 by 200 times. And you wouldn't want to do that in code. You would want to use that handy function that we just saw. My voice sounds a little bit weird, and I apologize. It sounds very, I don't know if it's a real word, but I call it groggy. I think some people call it raspy or something, I'm not sure, but it sounds weird, and I don't know why. But 10 to the 10th power is, let me just try and work this out. That's maybe, I am very bad at maths, I apologize. I think it would be 1,000, I'm going to say, plus, going to say 1,000. No, it was way larger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think that would be 1 trillion, actually. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 1,000,000, 7, 8, 9, 10 billion. I think that number is. I think it's 10 billion. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's 10 billion. Yeah, it should be 10 billion. That is. Ooh, 10 to the 10th power is 10 billion. Wow. Now imagine you had to write that in code. That would just be crazy. You had to multiply 10 by 10 by 10 by 10 by 10 by 10, 10, 10. And, you know, let's actually make this a really huge number and just see what we get. Whoa, Nelly. Whoa! Is this a fun way to teach programming or what? Because that is crazy. Whoa. Whoa. Oh my god. That is... Wow. Yeah. Yeah, wow. That is awesome. Yeah, that's what the power function does. I'm going to bring that back down to 10. You can mess about with that and get some humor out of it. I wasn't expecting that. Wow. Now, the square root, Sqrt, say 16. Now, if you can guess what square root does, square root, this is square root, by the way. Sqrt stands for square root, and this gets the square root of a number, but Python doesn't come built in with this function. And why? Well, because if you keep including stuff, it's going to make your program, kind of slower, and it's going to include more stuff in the program, and it's just going to be slower, and it's going to be a bad time. So only import what you need. It's called polluting your namespace, which is basically just polluting your file, and you don't want to pollute your file. You want to keep your file clean, and you don't want to import everything. You only import what you need. It kind of does similar to what require does. Maybe it's in Lua, but maybe it's closer to do file. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's closer to do file. Anyway, made a weird sound with my third here. It's weird. Anyway, yeah. What we're gonna have to do is say from math import this. Now, what the heck does this do? Well, it says from the math module. This is a predefined Python math module. So from the math module, import star. Now, whoa, I understand this. You know, it's just saying from the math module, import. What the heck does this do? Well, this means everything. If you just said import math, it wouldn't import classes. It would only import files and variables and functions. It wouldn't import classes. That's why you say from math import star. We probably just get away with importing math, but I like to just from math import all. You shouldn't do this all the time unless it's a really small file and you know exactly what's in it. Or unless if you're using like a library and it says to do this, but it's best to only import what you need. And this is a wildcard, and this means all. If you've ever done any CSS, this is like, and it selects all the elements in your HTML file. That's basically the same. When you use the star, this does the exact same. You might have got that right off the bat if you did some CSS programming, but the square root function, because this imports the square root function. Without it, Python doesn't have it. So we're gonna say, so square root 16. So actually up here we're gonna say 10, 10. 10 modulus 10 does print the square root of 16 is, this should say 4. 4. Oh no, 16. This should print out 4. Yeah, 4.0. The math module likes to make everything a float. So it puts float there. Remember we did the float conversion? Now you could, if you wanted, say int. And say int. I believe you could. No, you wouldn't want to do it there. You would want to. I don't know why I'm doing it. It's kind of pointless to do it. But if you really wanted it to be a round integer, I actually don't know if it would work, because you're turning into a string and then you're rounding this to an integer. You make it an error. Nope. Notice how it took off the 0.0 at the end because it wasn't a float, because you don't need the decimal point. And I think that takes up less space in memory. But whenever you're doing Python, that is way advanced stuff, and you don't need to worry about that because Python is a high level language. Yeah. So that is what I wanted to teach. Wow, it probably is going to be another tutorial. So this is going to be calculator part 1, and I'm going to split it here. I'm going to split it here. Thank you for watching, and we will continue making our calculator in the next tutorial.